Welcome. Seattle Connected, the show that connects you with entrepreneurs, business people, movers and shakers in our community, letting you know who they are first before they become household names, which we know they soon will be, right? Yeah, right. Today's guest is a guest like no other. She has a sense of fashion, not just externally, but internally. She wants to help you be the best person you can so you can feel good and look good, and also not just take care of others, but take care of yourself. Like I always say, that's very important. She has a way of knowing how to look out for others and help them nourish their mind, body, and soul. She is an author. She is an activist. She is a poet. She is a writer, an entrepreneur. She is a Grammy Award winning singer, which she didn't know. I'm just throwing it out there right now. But she is someone that you want on your team. She is amazing, life coach, and so much more. Please give it up for the queen, Debrena Jackson Gandy. Holla.
Wow, I have a new accolade, David, I didn't even know about.
Yeah,
Grammy
see?
Award winning singer. Wow.
You didn't know? They didn't tell you?
But see, if I weren't on this show, I would have never known.
That's
what you do.
about.
You let us
Yes.
know who we are.
Okay. How was the intro? Is it okay?
Pretty darn good.
Okay. Yes, I want you to come back, so I had to try to do my part. So welcome.
Absolutely. You're going to have to keep me away with the fly swatter. I'm not going anywhere.
Of course. Lady in red. I love the dress.
Thank you.
I see how you're coordinating with the bracelet and the earrings. I pay attention to detail.
I'm
like that.
trying.
Yes. You look good and smell good. Thank you for
Oh,
showing
and
up.
smell good. So important.
Yes. I don't tell everyone that.
Okay. I hope not.
I just don't say anything. Welcome to Seattle Connected, Miss Debrena.
Whoa.
Yes.
Okay,
So-
don't mean to destroy your equipment. I'm just excited. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I have a question for you.
I love questions.
Yes. You've written a book. Whoa, 3. You've written 3? What was your first book?
Sacred Pampering Principles.
Okay, what was that about?
The subtitle in the book is An African American Woman's Guide to Self-Care and Inner Renewal. Yeah,
Say that 3
trailblazing
times.
book. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, really brought this concept of self-care into the vernacular, the lives, and the thinking of Black women, because it is now almost 30 years ago that it was released via HarperCollins, and
Yeah.
it's still selling. So that was the first book. Second book, All the Joy You Can Stand, came out in 2000, and my third book on relationships came out in 2014.
Ooh.
So yeah, the trilogy, I call it.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So when it comes to writing these books, is it hard for you to kind of know what to write without offending people, or you just speak from the heart?
Well, I write nonfiction books.
Right.
So these come out of my life, my experience, my
Yes.
learnings, my insights, my wisdom. And so it's not much in there to offend people in
Okay.
the traditional sense. Now, it might offend your long-held beliefs.
Okay.
It might offend some debilitating thoughts. It might offend some norms that you need to, cease.
Yeah.
It might offend your comfort zone, your old comfort zone,
Okay.
but not offend in the traditional sense. So
Okay.
because I'm about personal development and personal transformation, so transformation is different than just growth. It's caterpillar to butterfly. So there are some things that will get offended, like old habits,
Oh, okay.
old thought patterns, those kind of things. It's a good offense
Yes.
of those things.
A good offense.
Yes.
I like that. And Debrena, I didn't ask you like I normally do at the beginning of the show. Are you from here?
No, I've lived here since 1990. I actually grew up in Lacey, Washington.
Yeah.
One of the Tri-Cities down near our state capital, Lacey, Olympia, Tumwater.
Yeah.
And I was born in the South, in the same state as you, Louisiana.
Yes.
So I wasn't
That's my
born here, but I was raised here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is home at this point, right?
It is now. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's my base.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How often do you get to go home in
To
Louisiana?
Louisiana. Oh my gosh, David, that's terrible, because I have not been back for family reunion. It's either family reunions or funerals, right? That take us back to Louisiana, and I have not been there since the last family reunion 20 years ago plus. So it's been a minute.
It's been a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're going to start calling you after this. Like, how come you ain't been home? We miss you. You just so busy up there in Seattle.
Yeah, up in the Northwest.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
You know they are. Well, yeah. Shout out to everybody in Louisiana. Now, being that you are would you call yourself a relationship coach or guide or what's your
Coach.
coach?
Coach.
Coach. Do
Not a
tell.
counselor. Coach. So you're familiar with coaching, right?
Yes.
As a modality, and it kind of hit the scene in the late 80s, early 90s. You know,
Mm,
we were used to the term coaching being used in the athletic arena.
right.
And so then we took the distinctions of coaching and we brought it over into the personal development and personal growth space.
Okay.
And so I'm a relationships coach, which is really great to consider coaching after you've done some counseling. But it is definitely a different modality. And the way I teach, the way I work with folks, it's transformational coaching, relationships coaching, because I also do business coaching and personal development coaching. But my relationships coaching really is based in truth and accountability and some other elements that kind of set it apart from counseling, as well as there's active work you do between sessions, so it's not dead time between sessions.
Okay. So, which do you prefer more, coaching for businesses or relationship coaching? Because I know there's a huge difference. You know, you can
Oh yeah.
coach someone, right? You can coach someone to be successful or to get a job or just be their best when they get the job or how to perform in certain situations. And then there's relationships.
Yeah.
And ooh, we're going to dig into that. Which one do you prefer the most?
Well, it's not a preference, but
Mm,
there's definitely one that is more difficult, and it would definitely be the relationships coaching, because if I'm working with the business owner or an entrepreneur, the numbers are going to tell a certain story. Those numbers I can ask for and take a look at, regardless of what the person says. It's like, let me see your revenue numbers. Let me see your P&L. Let me see your balance sheet. And so those will, you need me to move this?
just a little bit. There you
It's
go.
okay. Sorry. I want it to have good audio fidelity.
Yes.
So it's easier to do business coaching than relationships coaching, because
Mm,
there are so many unsaid things, so many nuances, so much going on away from the session with somebody, and they come to bear in the session, but you only have so much time.
right.
So you don't have a report someone can give you to say, let me see how your love relationship is doing. But in business, there are some vital statistics I can check that are factual. So I love both of them because I'm bringing a transformational lens. That's kind of the lens I bring to my coaching. But relationships coaching is definitely more complex and
Mm,
it's more difficult.
yeah. Do you do is it couples or do you do people who are single or divorcees or
Yeah, I work with individuals, and I also work with couples.
mm,
And then I also have all kinds of courses and programs that fall under my Love Academy banner. Um, because what I'm really introducing, as I talk about in my third book, is a new paradigm. So
mm,
it's a new operating system, so to speak. It's a new model, it's a new approach, it's a new framework. And so none of us have been introduced to that, because we here in America have the worst outcomes when it comes to marriage and some of the highest dissatisfaction rates when it comes to, boyfriend, girlfriend, or committed non-marriage relationships.
mm,
So we've been operating out of a model and out of a paradigm that produces the worst outcomes globally.
mm,
So all of us need to be in the learner seat and the unlearning seat of what has not been working and what has failed us, which is what I get to help people detox from, and then install a new paradigm, a new way of relating and engaging that gives very different outcomes, healthy outcomes, win-win outcomes.
yeah.
So that's exciting to be bringing a new paradigm forth in the relationship space.
Okay. I have a question. How huge of a part do you think, the way you might have been raised
Mm-hmm.
might play into your future relationships or your present relationships? Because I was talking with a friend recently and we were talking about how some homes you might not hear I love you a lot, or you might come from a home where the way to show that you're loved is a certain gift, or just an unspoken type of language, right?
Yeah.
And then a lot of those same people will be in a relationship, not even kids, but they can be in a relationship and they're not used to hearing certain things or certain forms of praise, so
Yeah.
they might be a little standoffish because it's new, or they're like, what is this? This is a little weird. Do you think that, I don't know, I guess the way you were raised or different things you experience kind of shape your outlook on what a healthy relationship is, or what I should deserve, or
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why the questions that we ask in the dating phase need to completely change. Right now, it's like, oh, what do you do? Where do you work? What I call the biography and resume questions. But we really need to get some insight into the character and essence of people, which you can't necessarily see by how they're dressed or how much money they spend on a date, or how they may look that night. It's really the character essence and the pieces you don't know until they disclose and share. And so you do want to know, well, tell me about your family. Tell me about your relationship with your mother. Tell me about your relationship with your father. And these are often questions that never even get asked. And it's important data that if it's someone you're considering for the long term, and it could be long-term dating, it could be committed, it could be covenant marriage, which is for our lifetime. But I'm amazed, David, at how often these seemingly fundamental questions are never asked, along with other ones that just give you more insight into the person, not just about the person. And so, yes, absolutely. What did you see? What did you hear? What was modeled? It creates an imprint and an impression. It doesn't mean that your destiny and your fate is sealed and you can only replicate what you saw. Thank goodness we can make different choices versus what may have been presented to us, or even the environment we were immersed in. Because if nothing else, it's letting us know what didn't work. So it's all useful. But if you did see presented to you, and if you did experience by being immersed in it, examples of trust, examples of truthful conversation, examples of healthy, loving, appropriate touch, examples of seeing and hearing love verbally spoken into, there we go, ears or spouts, into you, or observed it being spoken into those around you, it definitely affects you. But what also affects us is what's coming down your generational lines, which isn't just me and what have I personally experienced in my life, but what patterns are coming down the line of father, what patterns are coming down the line of mother that can influence and affect how I'm showing up, how I'm being, how I'm engaging, how I'm perceiving, how I'm believing. And then there's the larger Western American culture, which has the worst outcomes in the relationship space. When you compact all those together, it's a mess. And now we got two people trying to have a connected, close relationship, and they have all this pollution, garbage, gunk, funk, and junk swirling around that they've never cleaned out. That's why the healing is so important. So yes, those things affect us, and they can infect us if we're not careful.
You said garbage, pollution,
Gunk, funk, and junk. Yes.
Wow. Look at you. It rolled off the tip of her tongue.
Hey, didn't you say I'm poet? You threw another, accolade in there.
You are. You didn't know?
I am as of today. So that's why I got gunk, funk, and junk. I got to have
Come
some
on now.
poetic.
Look at you. Rising to the... Come on. I'm glad that you said, like, from what you've seen, what you hear, what signs of love are healthy, what are signs that this isn't love. I went through a lot when I was like preteen, early teens.
Yeah.
And I didn't know until I was like in my 30s how much that affected me.
Yeah. Yeah.
I had someone, an elder, and I've always liked to listen to my elders because I think you can learn so much from someone else's experience, someone else's journey.
Yes.
And speaking to an elder, I realized, like, wow, I had a lot of unresolved issues from, when I was younger,
Yeah.
that just kind of got swept under the rug because I think in our community, and I'll at least speak for myself, sometimes whatever's unknown, it's easier to not deal with than deal with.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's easier to not try than to try and fail. And
Well said.
well, thank you. I've also noticed that sometimes you need to heal on your own before you can try to heal someone else's past problems or try to jump in and be a superhero, because some people need to kind of find that strength on their own and not think I can go from partner to partner to partner and then I'll find what I'm looking for. But sometimes you can be with the quote unquote perfect person, but if you're not healed yourself, it's not going to mean anything. Or maybe I'm just talking about what do you
What happens, and here's why healing is so important. And Healing 101 that I talk about is forgiveness work, so that we can just bring it right on down to what is an example of a form of healing. And it's amazing to me and appalling, not just amazing, it's shocking and appalling how few of us have done any intentional, deliberate forgiveness work. It is intentional. It is a process. It does have steps, and it is the path to personal liberation or a restoration of your open heart, which puts you in a space of freedom. So, for example, if, we were in a relationship and here you are, a kind, thoughtful, respectful brother, but in my experience, I now have calluses around my heart, gates around my heart, 5 levels of security around my heart because of the injury I endured behind another brother, where it was disrespectful, unthoughtful, psychologically abusive, and I didn't do my healing work. Then I'm sitting here trying to receive from you and be in connection with you with emotional bruises. Now, bruises sometimes aren't readily seen. If you had a bruise on your arm, I couldn't see it because it's under your purple jacket. But as soon as I tap that arm in that place, you respond because it's still active. It's still firing. The pain is still loaded into it. So that means I would be sitting here with emotional bruises as you were trying to love me, or you were trying to connect with me, or you were trying to affirm me. But it's coming through 5 gateways, and it's coming through the calluses, and I don't trust it because I'm familiar to another kind of treatment that's much less kind and respectful than I'm receiving. So what happens? I have a hard time knowing it's real. I have a hard time believing this could really be how you feel about me. I struggle with it because, is this the real thing? Is this a motive just to try to get between my legs? Now my mind is going all these different places, and none of that is true. You're just being kind. But I can't receive it because that is a foreign energy based on whatever my pattern, or being unhealed from a previous version of what is now trying to engage with me. That is so classic. That is happening over and over again, and it can be with men being the ones that are sitting there with the emotional bruises, or women there with the emotional bruises, or both. Because in this country, we don't talk about healing. We talk about just go for it, dust yourself off, brush your scabby knees off, and keep going. We do not talk about, okay, hold up, healing is a real thing. It's a real space in the human journey. And it is amazing to me how unfamiliar we are with it, because it's not something we talk about much. It's something not being taught in our churches, certainly not happening in our Greek organizations, not happening in our book clubs, not happening at the gym. Where is it happening? It isn't. And so the good news is that I'm not forever sentenced to what may have happened in my past. Healing is the path out, so that I'm not defined by it forever. I'm not stuck with the residual emotion of it, because it's still in me somewhere. It's in my mind as beliefs and perception. It's in my heart as gateways I've put up, or it's in my body manifesting as some form of dis-ease. So it hasn't gone anywhere. And it's sitting right here as you're trying to love me, engage with me, and contribute to me. And that is playing out over and over again in our relationships these days.
Okay. With that being said,
Yes, yes.
you hit it right on. Okay, all right, let's do this.
Hey.
Hey, with that being said,
Yes.
why do you think it is that we have repeat offenders as far as the types of relationships they continue to get into?
Yeah.
Now, I've heard from males, I just want to, a good girl, and then they get with someone who's really toxic for them.
Yeah.
I've heard women say, I just want a man who treats me right. And at times, the man who treats them right is the man that they don't want to be involved with. And they go back to the type of guy they had a bad experience with 2, 3, and 4 times.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is, that us as a people are attracted to, I guess you could say, what we know is not healthy for us?
Yeah.
Or we feel like, but if I do more of this or I do more of that, then it'll work out, or I just need to.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't say we're attracted to it.
Okay.
But I would say, why does it draw us? And like against our better common sense, right?
Right.
It's because when you have not done your healing work, that means that there's also beliefs that you're holding. You can't see my beliefs. All you can do is kind of surmise from my behavior, my use of my free will, maybe how I'm speaking, but you don't know what they actually are, right? The constructs that I'm holding inside myself that create a framework for how I perceive myself, men, relationships, love. But you can see me making choices that are toxic, choices that are unhealthy, attracting or drawing to me the lower qualities in men, because we all have good ones and we have lower ones. So I keep drawing out, tapping into, finding the lower qualities. Now, why is that a common denominator for that woman? Because I'm holding beliefs that you can't see, but you can see my actions informed by my beliefs. So if something happened to me when I was 5, and I installed a belief, I'll use the word installed, we're in such the information age, and I unknowingly install a belief about what the level of good treatment that I deserve, and it's low. I don't know that I've absorbed that. I don't know that I've installed that. So what I'm going to accept and allow in and draw to me is going to be consistent, not with what I say, not the words coming out of my mouth, but the core software, my human software called beliefs, that is the program I'm operating from. So most of us have what I call debilitating dissonance, right? I say I want an upstanding man, this kind of man, but who keeps showing up in my space is not that. I might even be confounded by it. I don't understand. But until I do my healing work, my energy field is broadcasting the injury. It's showing up in my vibration. Now, other people can pick it up whether they're aware of it or not. We can pick up on vibes. People say, oh, good vibe, bad vibe. What are you picking up on? The energy. We read energy. It isn't just your behavior. Your beliefs affect all that is emanating from you. So you will keep drawing to you what's consistent with your beliefs. And you'll only notice what's consistent with your beliefs. It's the darndest thing. It's like you go get a new car that is bright purple, and all of a sudden you notice every bright purple car on the freeway. Did they just start driving bright purple cars on the freeway? No. But your awareness is now heightened around the purple car. So beliefs operate very similarly, where whatever your beliefs are, unknowing or knowing to you, what you notice is consistent with the beliefs. So that's why healing is so important, because we'll keep having this disconnect and this debilitating dissonance. And that is what is playing out in our relationships in vivid and scary ways right now, because women are saying, there's no good men. Men are saying, there's no good women. Well, when you haven't done your healing work, it creates a filter. And you wouldn't recognize a good woman if she, knocked you over the head, and you wouldn't recognize a good man because you still have so much of the emotional bruise beliefs still hanging out in your system that are tainting your ability to recognize and see. So that's the state we're in, David, is that you just described. That pattern is like rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat. And so the way out, I know we want to leapfrog over it. I know we want a proxy. I know we want to go around it and under it and avoid it. And we've done that long enough. And now we're to the point where I'm going to say emotional pus has so filled us up that the only way out is we have to now do the healing work to move it out. And that's for all of us collectively. So none of us is exempt. And I can't really support you in healing work until I've cleaned some of my own pus out, because it might splatter on you, first of all, or I will be so absorbed with the poison I'm trying to manage that I can't even be of assistance to you. So advice is different from actually helping facilitate someone else's healing. So there's an imperative for all of us to do, starting with the forgiveness work. And that's why that's forgiveness work at some level. I may not always have time to do all 5 steps, but some degree of forgiveness work is in every love relationships course that I do, because I know people haven't gotten it anywhere else. And I poll them, I ask them, and sure enough, it's 2%. So if you had 100 people, two people out of 100, male or female, have done any level of healing work. And it might be incomplete, might have been scratching the surface, but only 2 out of 100. And so we're in bad shape spiritually. We're in bad shape emotionally.
Debrena, Jackson Gandy.
Yes, David Jackson.
Yes. Like that, man. Family. Do you think as a people we are too quick to jump into relationships without the vetting process, like you were saying, just getting to know someone, just jumping in just because, maybe being scared of being alone? Or
Absolutely. And it's not just us as a people, as an African American folks. We have to understand that the entire premise of love relationships is warped and twisted in this country, because this is a country that's based on some very specific ideologies. One is individualism. Me, my, me, my, me, my. Now, that has places and spaces where it can be useful, but in the love relationship space, that will work against you. So it makes sense that here in America, we have the highest divorce rate and some of the highest dissatisfaction rates when it comes to love relationships and dating. Then we have capitalism. So what is the driver for so much of our behavior in this country is chasing the dollar, making a living. And it has us stressed out. It has us always in motion. It has us always on the go. It has us a hard time holding still. It has us trying to grab the bag and chase the bag. And when you're always chasing and pursuing and seeking and after something, the present gets abandoned. So you're not being present. And so being present in a relationship is real useful and it's real helpful. And then we have materialism, which means the physical 3-dimensional things in life are what's real. And what cannot be seen by my eye is unreal. Well, that's called spiritual. Yeah. And so we can say only the material aspects of life are legitimate and real, when really that's the secondary level. Everything starts at cause level, and then what we see is really the effect. So if you say the cause level, the spiritual level isn't real, well, then you don't even understand how life is constituted and how we're made, which we don't when we look at the breakdown in relationships, bodies, how our prisons, we have the most imprisoned citizens per capita of any other country. We have the highest gun violence rates, our homelessness rate for supposedly being the wealthiest country in the world. I think we've slipped from that now, but given the prosperity in this country, the fact that we have such a high percentage of our citizens that don't have a roof over their head and are unhoused. So when we look at all the signs of civility, all of the measurements of civility, we're always in the toilet here in America. So when it comes to love relationships, we're in the toilet. We have the worst outcomes. So it isn't just our people as African Americans, but it's certainly exacerbated and amplified because of our unique history in these United States amongst all people of color. We have a unique relationship to America. And so when you look at the torture, the terror, the maiming, the abuse, the lynchings, we're talking over 3,000 lynchings and not a single person ever taken to court, not a single person ever found guilty, not a single person ever indicted. When you look at things still currently happening that are the more subtle versions of racism, and the overt, blatant versions of racism, we have never been put into any kind of restorative program collectively, or a unique therapeutic or healing program collectively, right? There's a shooting at a high school and they send in the counselors to help the kids deal. Okay, well, we were actually property in this country. And then we didn't even get rights as citizens, though our ancestors arrived here long before many of our wonderful other ethnic groups that came here in the last 60 years. We were here since the 1600s. So, and citizens didn't get rights as full citizens until the 60s. What the heck? That's in my lifetime. I was a little girl, but that's my lifetime. So then you take all of the unhealedness of the materialism, the individualism, and the capitalism that America creates, and all the neuroses and pathologies that it creates out of those ideologies, and then you amplify and exacerbate the African American experience with not even an acknowledgement. Oh, that was then. Right. So part of healing is being truthful. We're not able to even be truthful. Yeah. It doesn't mean you right now, right here, have a smoking gun pointed at you, but to be able to say, you know what, that happened in this land, this country that I live in, that really happened. That minimizing what really happened does not support attention being taken away from it. It has you put more attention on it because it's not being acknowledged. And so that is a fundamental cornerstone of healing, is being truthful and be able to say what's so. Yeah. So even something like acknowledging what really did happen and still does. Oh, our Caucasian counterparts, our European counterparts in these United States can often struggle with that. And so that's at the collective level, because the country needs healing. We individually need healing. Our families need healing. It's needed under every rock, every crevice, every cranny. So it isn't just African Americans, but there's a unique kind of healing that's needed there because we were property. Yeah, that's not just insane. For a generation. Yeah. So we have to understand chattel enslavement that happened here in the United States was a unique form of enslavement. I've heard people say, well, there was slavery in other countries. Yeah, but it was usually because of the spoils of war. And you took the other, whoever lost in the battle became indentured servants for a certain period of time. And their children were certainly not born into enslavement. The children were always born free. Right. So we have to acknowledge and understand how the chattel enslavement that was the basis of the economy of these United States was a unique and especially inhumane version of enslavement, and that it broke all of the rules. A black child was not born free. They were born as property. So if you and I had a child, that human being would be listed on the list of commodities right next to the dog and the furniture. Yeah. What? Yeah, and had worse treatment than the dog. Yeah. Not for one generation, not for 2 generations, not for 3 generations, not for 4 generations, not for 5 generations, not for, I could keep going until 20 generations. Yeah, so you've got 20 generations of sexual abuse, physical abuse, psychological abuse, and those are the more humane abuses we endured. And then you say, do you think that could affect people? But we disregard all that and say, oh, look at these statistics. Look at, as if we were in a vacuum. Again, not acknowledging that this large parts, not all, but large parts of this, it's the fruit of the tree grown right here in America.
There you go. Miss
Woo, you got me excited on that one.
You got me.
Oh my.
Woo! You took
Oh
me
my
to church.
goodness.
You took me to school. You took me to therapy.
Woo!
Man, listen. Yeah.
And truth.
Yes.
Took me to truth.
Always. Debrena, can you go more into your courses, your wonderful courses you were talking about?
Oh my goodness.
When did you
All
start?
day long I could talk about my courses and my programs and my intensives and my retreats. But my company is divided into three main divisions. The bulk of the work we do now is around personal empowerment and transformation, with primarily very visionary, thought-leading African-American women would be the largest percentage of the women that we work with. Leaders, thought leaders, tribe leaders, business owners, influencers in their own spaces and circles are the kind of women drawn to my body of work. How to live and be a sacred, self-caring, juicy woman and live the juicy woman lifestyle. It is a new paradigm and a new model for Black women versus the self-martyring, self-sacrificing, mammy, Aunt Jemima, mule of the world, carrying on her shoulders like Atlas, way too much. That is what we're coming out of. That's what I'm bringing women out of. But the programming is deep, especially given the enslavement history for so many generations. That's in our cells. So the level of healing is profound that's needed to clean that out too. So I have this powerful personal transformation work I do, and a whole beautiful offering of courses like Juicy Woman University. Isn't that a great name?
Yes.
A course, advanced leadership course called Bountiful, an advanced leadership course called Luminary. So these fabulous names where I'm doing some high-level transformational work with leading visionary women. Then I have the love relationships work I do, which is kind of newer. It's a newer kid on the block because my third book was about, it's called The Love Lies, and it's really exposing the faulty, flawed, effed up beliefs and programming that have been a part of our conditioning and upbringing in these United States, not to mention what came down our family lines and what we see in media and all the other places that the funky inputs are coming from. And so I have a whole body of courses and programming around that. So Love Academy 101 is for women, Mentality 101 is for men. And the majority of my participants are, again, progressive, visionary brothers and sisters. And I just love that. And I have a course I'm doing, Brought Back, because dating is so messed up, so much madness and confusion going on in the dating space, that a lot of my students said, please bring your course back on dating remixed, Debrena's Modern Courtship. So actually offering that tomorrow, and I have women from all over the country that have signed up because they're frustrated and fed up, as many of us are in the dating space, as they are reporting back to me, both men and women. It's because the dating model is the runway. It's the lead up to marriage. We have the worst outcomes for marriage.
Yeah,
we have some of the highest.
Always been like that.
We have the highest. Some of the highest frustration rates in the dating space. So whatever we're doing, we need to stop because the fruit is showing the evidence of it being rotten fruit. So no problem. Debrena has an alternative. Debrena has a different paradigm. That's a win-win. Come on over. Let me teach you Debrena's Modern Courtship. Different premise, different principles, and different practices. Men love it. Women love it. And then I also have preparation for partnership. A few years ago, women started coming to me, Debrena, we're detoxing from the love lies, thanks to, your book, The Love Lies. But we don't know how to be a juicy wife. Then another woman comes to me, Debrena, we're getting detoxed of the love lies. We're starting to attract a different caliber of men. We're starting to activate higher qualities in men. That's a Debrena-ism. Activate. What do you activate in a man? Debrena-isms. And so, but we don't know how to be a juicy wife. Because I teach the juicy woman lifestyle. Juicy in life, juicy in love, juicy in business. Debrena, we don't know how to be a juicy wife. That's not what we saw modeled. That's not what we heard. That's not what we witnessed in the sitcom scripts and the movie scripts.
Right.
And enough women started coming to me saying that. I said, okay, it's time to create a new course. So 2 years ago, I created Preparation for Partnership. And so I'm teaching women how to be an asset as a wife, how to be a team. A lot of women were never on a sports team, so they don't even have that as a frame of reference. More men tend to do sports than females tend to do sports. So that always can be a frame of reference to use a team or sporting metaphor or analogy. Men go, yeah, I got it, I understand. Even if they are watchers of sports and they weren't in them. Okay, well then where does a woman get her notion of team if she doesn't have a baseline of athletics, which I did? I mean, I'm, state track champion, year-round athlete, all that. So I have a framework of being on a team. Individual, track's very individual, though you were on a track team, or a team sport like volleyball or basketball. So I have a frame of reference. So a lot of women don't even know how to be a good team player as it shows up inside a committed love relationship. And, that's one of the conversations we have is, you know what, you are a really poor team player. What? Let's take a look at the characteristics of a good team player. Dang, Debrena. I said, so just admit you're not a good team player. Doesn't mean you're a horrible person. It just means we got some muscles to develop.
Work on that.
That's right. Yeah. And here's what the work looks like, and here's what it looks like to be a good team player inside a love relationship. Because a man, if he's smart and knows how to recognize a woman with qualities that can help upgrade him and be a positive contribution, it's a woman, among other things, that knows how to be in team with him. That's right.
Debrena, you're the best.
Thank you.
You know that, right? That she's like, yeah. And I like how you threw in that, your track and field with the list of everything else you do, but
that's a very important part of my character development is athletics and what it requires of your mental discipline, what it requires of your physical discipline, what it requires in terms of interacting with team members. Right. It's a wholly, and I'm so grateful for it. And I don't think I would be as successful in my life and in business if I didn't have that conditioning of my mind, my body, my communication, and all the things that go into being on winning teams or being an outstanding athlete. And I draw on a lot of those analogies because I'm also a keynote speaker. So I draw on a lot of those analogies because athletics is so clear when the performance is more effective. Your time is faster, your distance is longer, and there's not a lot of subjective, debatable. It's like, here's the results. Yep. And so, so any rate, a lot of women don't know, especially wives, because marriage, among many things, should be a team experience, not where you're acting like two enemies or two different factions. And it amazes me how often that goes on in marriages. So there's a lot of subtleties, the art and science of being a juicy wife that I teach in Preparation for Partnership. And every time, David, here's what they say. I never knew this. Nobody ever, anywhere, told or taught me this, Debrena. Oh my God. And I have so many women that are divorced and are taking Preparation for Partnership. And they say, if I would have known this, I would not be a divorced woman right now. But I just didn't know. And when I would talk to other women, they would give some sweeping general comments like, why are you still together? How have you been able to last so long? Well, I'll just say this. We've had some ups and we've had some downs, but it was worth it. Do you know how many times we women hear that little adage said over and over again? Hold in there because it's worth it. But what does that mean? Yeah. What ups, what downs? What are you talking about? And so we go in and we pull the curtain back. And so so far from folks that have taken my courses and programs just around the love relationships piece, there's at least 67 new Black love marriages. That's those who've taken the time to actually report back, which we know that is probably a small percentage given all those that are now in juicy marriages. But I'm not even a matchmaker. Those are impressive statistics. And not everyone has to say, I want to be married as a result of working with you, Debrena. But graduates have gone on, at least 67, to be in new marriages. And that is ages 27 to 72. 72. So it's working, David. This is not just lip service. It's not just me talking about my one relationship experience as one person saying, well, here's what I did and it can work for you too.
Yeah.
That is not a broad enough foundation, my one lived experience, to now be able to translate to others.
Yeah.
So I think that's why, my relationships body of work is still so attractive.
Right.
Because it's like, oh, this is based on timeless truths. Oh, this is based on some spiritually centered principles that aren't just only relative to the 2000s or the 2020s or the 1980s or the 1950s. These transcend the norms of the cultural moment. And so, so folks are really digging it. And I'm really just getting started because I talk about new paradigms, right? So that means I'm not just recycling the same old stuff that everyone else is saying. And what I found from my 3 books is it takes 10 to 20 years for the mainstream to catch up with what I was talking about 10 to 20 years ago. So my 3rd book, The Love Lies, actually came out 10 years ago, if you can believe it. And just in the last 3 years, women said, I've had your book and I'm now picking it up to read it. I tried to read it previously, but it was so intense and so potent and so truthful, I had to put it down. Now I'm picking it back up.
Yeah.
We've had book clubs form now, and I mean, all kinds of amazing things. But that book was written 10 years ago. But it was a new paradigm for dating, not a new paradigm for covenant marriage, but a reintroduction of the divine blueprint already set forth that very few people have ever taken the time to intimately become acquainted with. So Christians have the same 51% divorce rate as everybody else, unfortunately. So any rate, it's exciting to be a thought leader and to be not ahead of the curve, creating the curve.
Look at that.
Yeah.
Man, Miss Debrena, can you please let people know how they can get in touch with you, pick up one of your 3 amazing books, and be ready for your 4th because it's coming? Hear more about your courses and just everything that you have going on. Please let them know how they can get in touch with you, stay inspired, or just say thank you for all that information. Let them know.
Woo. Well, online, I have what I call Debrena Grand Central, which is my website. And it's $1,000,000mentor.net. $1,000,000mentor.net. And what you can find there is not only some articles. So if you want to start to become more familiar with these new paradigms I'm talking about, no problem. We have articles under the categories of life, articles under the categories of love, and articles on the categories of business if you want kind of a blog style quick read. But I also have actual learning tools and aids. So whether it's my 3 books, whether it's a digital self-study course that you want to check out, or audio training program on, for example, how men tick. I have an actual audio program called How Men Tick. Why is that necessary? So few women know how men tick.
This is true. Yeah.
Truly tick. Or they're talking to their girlfriends who also don't know. So now you're perpetuating ignorance. No, let's really understand how men tick. And then they don't seem confounding anymore. I have a audio training that introduces you to healing and emotional freedom, because so many people have an arm's length relationship to truly understanding, well, what are we talking about when we talk about forgiveness? And what do we mean when we say healing? You just mean personal development, Debrena? No, I don't. So lots of yummy resources at $1,000,000mentor.net. There's also some wonderful gifts that you can get. I like to be very generous. So you have 3 gifts you can get by just saying, Debrena, I want you to stay connected with me. Here's my email address. So you get 3 free gifts: the Sacred Self-Caring Woman's Toolbox. And then I have events going on. So David, I don't know when this is going to be airing, but I also want to let your viewers know right here in Tacoma, Washington, on Sunday, September 29th, 2024, I'm doing my first live co-ed event. I've done women-only events. I've done men-only events. I've done online co-ed events, but this will be my first co-ed live 3D and in-person relationships event, and it's called Relationships Reboot. Sunday, September 29th, 2 to 4:30, and David, I'm so excited that it's going to be at the Super Funny Comedy Club. Do you know Nate Jackson?
Mm-hmm.
That's my little brother.
Yeah, that's what's up.
And
Man,
so
look at that.
my husband and I are part owners of the Super Funny Comedy Club,
Okay.
the largest Black-owned comedy club in America. And so that's where we're going to be. And it's all going to be about rebooting Black love, juicy, healthy Black love. So, yeah, we got events. I got resources. I got books.
You got everything. And guess what?
Uh-oh.
You got Seattle Connected.
Dun, 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 dun.
So,
Yes.
Debrena, listen, I love your energy. I love everything that you spoke about because
Thank
it was
you.
real and it was like from your heart. And I can tell you're excited about helping people.
Thank you.
It shows, that's your
Oh.
spirit. So thank you for taking time to hang out with me. Man, this
Yes.
was awesome.
Can we
And
consider this part 1?
this is part 1.
Okay, yay.
We need at least a trilogy.
Okay.
All right?
Ah,
At least.
yes, yes.
It's not for us, it's for the people, right?
Man after my own heart. It's for the people.
All right, Debrena, thank you. I need a hug. And I thank you guys for watching. As always, it's important to take care of others, but please make sure you take time to take care of yourself. Until next time, stay connected. Peace.